Elaine Toll. I think I got it. And I am RNPA negotiator, and I work at O'Connor Hospital as a nurse. And then
I'm Debbie Chang. I'm the RNPA consultant, and I was one of your past RNPA presidents as well.
We have a little agenda. I was gonna, I made a little PowerPoint, so I'll show you what we have planned. Maybe ask for a second. Okay. So welcome to the meeting. Okay, agenda items. We're going to talk about what does striking mean? What's a strike? What does that mean for us? We're going to go over our intent as RNPA and as nurses. We're going to have a quick question and answer regarding our current negotiations, where we're at. We have a few new RNPA board members. That election closed yesterday, so I think it was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have some staffing to Acuity issues that Debbie will go over. And then we did send out an email today about the RNPA organizers and how to support them when you see them out at the different hospitals, clinics, facilities. Okay, so why do we strike? We strike for better working conditions, for fair pay, safe staffing. Some of our big member issues has been better education, safety for nurses, and fair wages, fair differentials, fair pay. Who determines if we strike? So all of the dues paid members will have a vote. So if you're not a dues paying member, or if you know somebody that's not a dues paying member, please have them join, because the more votes, the better. More representation for the whole system. If members all vote to not strike, they have, that's where our voice comes, is in the majority. Will you be paid? No, you're not allowed to be paid. You can't take PTO, sick, or comp time for going out on strike. Can you be fired? No, it's a protected activity. So we have an attorney that works for all of you and me that is going to speak tonight at the strike school. So we're hoping you get out there, let everybody know. I think it's 5 o'clock.
5:30 to 7:30, asking them to arrive at 5.
There's pizza and drinks, so if you get there a little early, but she's gonna answer all the questions.
At 2302 Zanker Road in San Jose, the SCIU Hall.
Okay, and we have SCIU's support, and they're
Absolutely.
huge,
So we'd like
community
to
of.
thank them, absolutely.
Exactly, for that. So what is our intent? So my intent and your intent and all of our intent is to get a fair contract. So we're not gonna strike for no reason. We're gonna negotiate. Negotiation takes, that back and forth communication, that's what we're in the middle of right now. We've done a bunch of research, data collection, looking at other facilities, other community hospitals. We're trying to show how we're way under par in a lot of areas. So that's what we're presenting to the county. And then we wanted to open it to you guys for any questions. I'll get out of this. How do we do? Okay. Does anybody have any questions about negotiations or striking or the strike school tonight?
Can you click it so we can see?
Oh, how do I do that?
Sorry. I think the little, yeah.
I've never used that.
Okay. Anybody has any questions?
I see some of that.
Oh, you do?
There's nothing in the chat right now.
Okay.
Did everybody get their answers? Their questions answered?
No. So there will not be a Zoom link for strike school. But what we will do is we will compile a informational, let you know what happened.
But
Right?
but yeah, I think what matters is to have somebody show up first, because that's the whole thing.
Exactly.
Not to say we're gonna have something later, but it's
true.
important in
It's true.
numbers, absolutely.
Yeah, we want to show that we're serious about this, that we really are serious about wanting these things that we're asking for. If we don't show up, if we have very few people show up, that's a message that we're giving to the county. So we really want people to show up.
I have something to ask. This is Alex. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, hi, Alex.
Hello. So, what's going on with the county? Why are they being this way with us? I mean, the contract that they've been presenting to us is it's pretty pathetic, actually.
Yes.
Just put it that way.
Go ahead. Sorry.
It's just like, I mean, at least I don't know if you're there, but I was telling you this last time. It's like they forgot that we fought a pandemic. I mean, other hospitals, they're getting better pay than us. Inflation is out of control. Is it that there is new management right now in the county and these folks are being this way to us? What's going on? Because you guys talk to them face to face. What's going on with these folks?
So what I've heard, because I'm 3 years new to the county, I've heard that this is something that they do.
That's true. Being that I was on the last negotiating contract, they normally start off low. However, I believe what turned it around was that we united with SEIU. And when we had that sympathy strike, you had the ER, the OR, and many nurses from all the floors walked out. We had large numbers in strike school, and they started to see that we were very connected, and that's what they need to see again. Your recent 10% came from the last contract negotiations, because we asked for a classification study. So we got to make sure that in order for you to achieve something is through numbers. So I hope everybody can go out tonight at 2302 Zanker Road and show their support, because this is your contract.
Yeah, and I come from I'm 3 years county, and I came from an outside facility, and when I came in, I couldn't believe how low of a benefit package that we have. Education at my previous facility, we got $3,700 twice a year to go back to school. Here, when you calculate it per nurse here, it's $33. There's a lot of things that we need to work on, and we submitted 60 plus proposals because that contract is not good for the nurses. So it right now is rough because it's Christmas time, we're all busy, we're all spending and saving and trying to work and do, so it's the time that we pull together. Once we get that good contract, then we have another 3 years of that. So anyway, we really just need to get the nurses participating. That's what we're seeing.
The differentials as well, let's just say that, they're willing to increase it some, but it's not really a increase for differentials, right? Because isn't it gonna be where they're gonna have 13 months delayed?
Yeah, one of them they raised by 25 cents.
Wow.
But they won't raise it when we agree to the contract, they wanna raise it a year later.
Right, so that's why the nurses need to unite. It's infuriating.
It is, it's humiliating.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So anyway, so what I've heard is that they do this is this strategic on their part, is to claim budget issues and to, this is how they start out. Is there another?
No, I don't see, does anybody else have any comments, concerns, questions?
Hi, my name is Mitchell Taylor, over O'Connor ER.
Hi, Mitchell.
I have a question about security and what either the county is proposing to help boost up the security of our from being hurt from patients that are being violent.
So, so this is what I know is that The county has approved of, metal detectors at the ED. They have a plan, a security plan, but what they're failing to do is include the nurses in that. And so we have a proposal that allows the nurses to be a part of that plan. I mean, we are the ones battling the violence. So they don't like that. They wanna have control of it, over it. They handed us this big binder and they're like, here, this is it. And you know, we joke that maybe if they gave us each one of those binders, we could protect ourselves. But anyway, so I know there is a plan, and because it's, I think, a government agency, there is that, you know, county, there's bureaucracy with that, and it's taking a lot longer. I have a friend that works at San Jose Kaiser. They just put in their metal detectors. They have them in. But there is a plan that they have, but we're trying to get our hands into that, and they just completely rejected.
But in the meantime, what really matters to nurses is to make sure that you feel safe coming to work. And the workplace violence and the safety that Malay is talking about metal detectors, that'll help. However, they need to do so much more. And they are actually operating on substandard levels because they're not implementing it quick enough. We've had nurses that have been beaten up recently in the ED. We have our nurses on the floor that are they're cursed at, they have bowls thrown at them, you have people pulling their hair. You don't deserve this. And one of the things that the RNPA board members have been asking for was, can you at least put that in the MOU that you're gonna make us safe? And they're not willing to even write that in your MOU. They're not willing to, in the beginning, they weren't willing to consider to remove your last name, because if you took care of somebody who was a violent family member, that you're taking care of a patient, that is their family member, you just wanna feel safe. And they weren't willing to entertain the last name removal until our board members that fought for that and compared, like, why does Kaiser have no last name? Why is it that the
all these other
Camino
facilities
areas,
let you block your last name, but they're saying that it's not legal to do that.
Yeah, they said that it was a BRN issue, and that they said that that was one of the reasons, but they found out later that, oh, it's not.
Yeah.
But they're getting pushback from everything. The board members are working day and night, and they really definitely need your support tonight to show up at 2302 Zanker Road.
Yeah.
Because you know, all of this matters to all of you, and they need to show their strength. All of you need to show your strength tonight in numbers. So you know, trying to make you safe, it's just not coming fast enough.
No.
And we need to stand together and let them know this really matters to us.
And Mitchell, I walked by it was last week, I walked by the ED at O'Connor. It was night, it was dark, and it was standing room only in the waiting room, like shouldered it. It was so packed. So I don't know. Hats off to you, because
It's
busy down there.
So we're pushing.
We had a question come in. It is, if needed, when are the potential anticipated strike days?
We don't have that yet. They're not done negotiating.
So we're not planning on striking. We don't want to strike. We want to come to an agreement, but as soon as we get to that point where impasse, we will send out a vote, and then you will have to vote on that.
So there was a message.
Yeah, I saw a message there, but I don't
So
see it.
Angelia, can you read the message for us, please? Because I can't, let me see here. Oh, I
That
can
was
do-
the message that I read.
Okay,
there
I'm
was one
reading
about
another one. It
differentials.
says the
Okay.
night shift and PM shift differentials are too low
Yes.
compared to other hospitals. The county can do better.
Yeah.
Absolutely, they can do better,
Absolutely.
but they're not going to do better if we are not strengthened numbers. And you can imagine this, if they're going to give you a little increase as far as a differential, you will not receive it until 13 months later. So if you don't like that proposal, we need
No.
to show our numbers tonight.
Yeah.
So
that's
yeah.
where we're seeing just a little lacking is that nurse support. So
Absolutely.
we're really searching for that. But we totally agree with you. It was it feels a little humiliating when I
Right,
take offense.
right,
I
I
do,
don't
it's
blame
terrible. Okay, so here, let me go back to the slides. I have to share screen, give me 1 second here.
You see another question in the meantime?
Okay, good.
Will the strike school be on Zoom as well? Absolutely not. Not at this point. No strike school on Zoom. And the reason is we need everybody to show up in numbers. We need to also know many of you supported us and said you're coming and you support us. However, if we see 30 members tonight, then I would say that they are not being supported. And if many people show up on Zoom, then you can also have the county listening on the Zoom. So we don't want that.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
we need everybody to be there in person, please.
So we wanted to say congratulations to the new board member. So Amy English, she's from O'Connor. Here, I have a little blurb, sorry. She's from O'Connor Hospital. She's a clinical nurse 3. And she's gonna be the secretary. James Mount, he's from St. Louis. He's the new negotiator. He's an ICU nurse, St. Louis. Tiffany, she's an A&M at VMC. She was reelected. So I think she's on her 6th year, 7th year. She's been here a while, very knowledgeable. And then Susie York, newly elected president. She's Clin Nurse 3 at VMC. So we want to just say congratulations.
Congratulations to all of you guys.
And then, okay, so staffing to Acuity. This is something that Debbie's gonna
Yes.
talk about. So I'm gonna get
Okay.
out of the PowerPoint though.
So I think this is gonna hit home on many levels to many nurses. You know, we've been noticing that, you know, when you guys fill out your staffing levels form and you give it to us, we meet with the Patient Acuity Task Force meeting. We meet with our CNO, Andrea Berlini. We will meet with the manager of whomever unit you reported to say that the staffing levels were low. And then we'll meet with some more people in administration, such as maybe Terry Edmondson from BAP area. And you'll have Kim Walker, who is the director of critical care and rehab areas. So you will have these individuals show up to these meetings. Well, this past meeting, we are gonna make it where we're gonna go ahead and escalate this to another level. Because every time we have gone to the meetings, it is pretty much disheartening. People will say, oh, you were short-staffed, however, everything turned around. The reason they're short-staffed was maybe because people called in sick. So I wanted to share something with you. There was one unit that is in the rehab unit, the acute rehab unit that is spinal cord injury. So they're vent dependent, or they're also weaning them off the vent and they're putting them on the trach collar mist and eventually hopefully plug the trach. But when you look at your acuity that you will take care of your patient and it captures the complex care that you're giving along with your interventions, along with all the things that you're doing to make this patient well. So it'll snapshot that in your acuity grid. And so it was interesting because one of the meetings we were told that management, this was a few meetings back, management was approaching people and telling them, well, you know, your patient doesn't look like a 3, looks more like a 2. So some of these nurses were changing it, is what I was told. However, I never actually had the encounter to actually speak to any of those nurses that actually lowered their acuity. When we brought that up to the Acuity Task Force meeting, Andrea Berlini immediately said, are you telling me your nurses are falsifying documents? And I said, that's not what we're saying. We're saying that they're being told to lower their number. And again, she said, you're telling me nurses are falsifying the document. That's a legal document. No one should be touching that. It's the assessment of a nurse, and I want names of people who are doing it. So we ended up saying that we're going to continue with our meetings, and then now fast forward till yesterday. We had another meeting, and we had rehab, and there were 8 patients. The acuity level is 2.88. It warrants 7 nurses. And what they were recently told was take your nurse, you're overstaffed, send them to another floor, which went to the other rehab floor, which is those patients there are having physical therapy, and their duration is about 3 hours and each, per day. So they have qualifications. They're not on a ventilator. They're not on the trach collar mist. So anyway, they're on the other unit. So their RN went to another unit, and they replaced them with an HSA. So the issue here was I reached out back to that nurse, and I asked them, please describe in detail what warranted number 3s, the acuity number 3, all the way from patient 1 to patient 7, and there was one patient that had an acuity level of 2. As I was reading the details of the patient being vent dependent, had O2 sat drop because of a mucus plug, went down to 68%. Another patient vent dependent went down to 80%. Another one that had a mucus plug earlier that day, and it requires frequent suctioning. There are times when they're trying to wean off that patient from the vent, and they have to do times to see how long they can tolerate them being off. So they are really taking care of pretty sick patients. Well, administration disagreed with us, and they are looking only at numbers. They're only looking at the numbers of nurses to those patients. And they said, how can you have 6 nurses with 8 patients? That is enough staffing. They're not taking into consideration the acuity that they actually gave us, and it was approved by them in 2018. So what we did was, and what we propose to do in the future is to, when you do your staffing level and you're saying you're out of ratio and you're out of compliance, I want you, no, this is not to be discussed yet. Yeah, but that's just not something yet. So what you're gonna need to do is you're gonna indicate your staffing level number, like the way the rehab did on 2.88. When you look at the 2.88, at that point, I showed them that it warranted 7 nurses. We disagreed with them, and it got quite heated. And what we said was, we're going to escalate this to the next level, which is going to be that we're gonna go ahead and move it up to have them go and have a management audit system where it's going to be, the process is going to eventually go up to the board of supervisors. The board of supervisors are going to hear how we are, how we have our staff being not provided the right amount of staff. They're giving you the ratio of 1-to-1 is in the operating room or trauma center, or in the ED, but at ICU is 1 nurse to 2 patients. You also have NICU, so those are the fixed ratio. When you start having step-down unit, you start having the med-surg floor, and you start having the ortho and all the other types of patients floors, that's when you go onto an acuity grid system. And what I'm hearing is that it's not properly integrated for St. Louis and O'Connor. So when we challenged them with that and we showed them that we were actually being compliant, my response was, what is the difference? If a nurse was approached and said, lower your acuity, till today, having a conversation with you today, and you're saying that that was enough staffing. And they also made a comment that they're going to reevaluate our acuity grid because they felt that it was archaic and it was outdated, which was actually created in 2018. So we are taking a stand. We're gonna escalate this higher, and then we're gonna continue telling everybody to please spell out your acuity grid, because we are going to let them know they are non-compliant, they're not following the law, and that we're gonna continue escalating it further. How is it that they can't follow their own acuity grid that was approved by Valley Medical Center? And so the other hospitals, St. Louis and O'Connor, we need to meet with them as well, so we can go ahead and have them use the Acuity grid. So that way, the Acuity grid is supposed to enhance your minimum ratio. If you are in a med-surg floor and you're 1 to 5, but you have a tele patient that is 1 nurse to 4 patients. Now, if you have a patient that is having frequent PVCs, PACs, a patient is septic or needs to go up to PCU. However, maybe there's not a bed available up there and they're still saying this patient is doing okay, and you need that extra support. You need to go ahead and base it on the acuity and put those numbers in because of the fact that it's supposed to give you more staff. And that's the whole thing. And that's part of the law. In addition to the AB 394 that gives you our mandated ratio of 1 nurse to 5 patients if you're med-surg, 1 nurse to 4 patients if you're tele. In addition to that, you have something that's called the Patient Classification System, the PCS. In that law that states the 394, AB 394 ratio, mandated ratio is the minimum ratio, minimum. So when you fill out your acuity grid, that's part of the patient classification system. That number there will interpret how many nurses you need. Now, a lot of times charge nurses will say, well, you know what? I don't believe you guys need that. Then they are non-compliant. They're violating the law. I need you guys to send that to RNPA and send that with your acuity number. And now what we're doing something different. We're telling the unit, when we're receiving a staffing levels form that shows that they're out of compliance, we're going to ask managers to provide the acuity scoring for the 24 hours. So we can go ahead and understand what is going on in that floor, because this way we cannot just say, we're using it as a guide and that's all we're doing. That's way too many nurses, or they weren't that busy. Like the way they were saying about rehab, they weren't that busy. This is patient safety. This is the fundamental part of you with the working conditions. This affects you all. It affects all of you. So this is why we need to unite and make sure that we do not want them to change our acuity, because that is going to affect your working conditions and jeopardize the patients. Not only that, your license. So we have so many problems. We also have even vascular access nurse, the nurse team. When you have patients that are septic and they need a PICC line or they need ultrasound guided PIV, we need to make sure that we have enough staffing so they can go around and address these issues that are patients that are actually hard to find the veins, chemo patients, septic patients, burn patients. We need to be able to have that service available to us. And this is after we try to work on giving the IV and trying to stick them with our nurse experts on the floor where they will try to properly insert an IV. And when we cannot do that, that we have the support. Instead, right now, those vascular access nurses are going home and they have a working list that they'll say, we don't have anybody to hand this over to. So if there's 10 people that are on that list that do not have an IV access, if that was your family member, this is substandard care. What if they had an MI that night and they're trying frantically to put an IV in? And, it makes a big difference. We sent letters to Paul Lorenz. We sent letters to Andrea Berlini. We're letting them know that this is substandard care. So we want to make sure that all of us unite tonight. This affects all of us, and the working conditions is very important. The safety is very important, and to have parity among the other hospitals, or you're going to continue starting up with the revolving door. So this affects all of you, and I hope you can join us all at the 2302 Zanker Road, SEIU Hall. So does anybody have any questions or comments?
So there was one more question. If the strike is approved, what's the process of deciding dates?
If we, that will be where something you'll have more RNPA meetings. It's not where we're going to say it's on a Monday or it's going to be a Friday. they will conclude with how they're going to do the strike. And that's when they'll decide it. But it's going to be when they have impasse, and then the members have to vote. And then based on that number, they are supposed to, I guess the public sector does not have to give a notice. However, as nurses, we don't feel that's right, because we want to make sure that our patients are not jeopardized in any way, that they'll stop maybe having the OR surgeries, they will empty out the hospitals, and they will do other things, because, you know, by having a 10-day notice is appropriate. However, you know, those are things to be discussed with the board, and also talk to the attorneys tonight.
A couple new.
You had a couple of new messages. So one of them was, you had answered the question, will the strike school be on Zoom as well? And then the person replied, difficult for the PM shift if you don't have the Zoom.
Right, then, you know, I'm so sorry, but right now we only have that one date. And, you know, we will, you can call in and call RNPA, and then you can ask what happened to get information. But please encourage your fellow nurses to go out and support the RNPA board members, and to support all of you, because it's not actually just supporting RNPA board members, it's supporting all of you. So when you guys all go there, you guys are supporting each other. And that's the message that we're showing to the county, that we're united. And when you work PM shift, tell your day shift person or your night shift person to fill you in, because they attended the meeting. So we really want the strength in numbers.
There was a second half to the question about if the strike is approved, what is the process of deciding the dates? And then the second part of it, which wasn't answered, was how long of a notice will we get in advance?
Yeah, that is all to be discussed. We don't have that answer yet.
Okay, next question. When is the anticipated close date for the contract negotiations? If RNPA does not reach an agreement with the county, does the negotiations get prolonged, or I think it's supposed to be prolonged?
We can read these.
Yeah, we can read that. Or do we strike at that point? The extending, you know, they don't have a finalized date yet. At some point when they reviewed all of the proposals and they cannot agree on anything, they will reach impasse. And impasse, then they're going to come to you and they're going to start having some membership meetings. And they're going to say, this is where we're at today, and updating. And then they're going to say, this is something that we need to vote on. So there's going to be some steps to take. So they don't have an actual closing date. All we can tell you right now is that we are out of contract, and it expired on October 29th, 2023. So, you know, we don't have that date yet. You know, another thing that will affect all of you is that the county is also saying that they can float any one of us that work at the county. You can float to another hospital. So if you worked in one area of ortho or med surg or PCU, they can float you to another hospital in that unit. Or maybe they didn't even say that unit. Maybe they might just say, I don't know if they actually described it like that, or maybe they'll say you're a PCU nurse, you're floating to med surg, you're floating to St. Louis. I don't know, and all I know is that they said they're not paying you for mileage. They're not giving you any differential because you're floating and you're wasting your gas there going somewhere else. But because of the fact that you're guaranteed your code, if you work guaranteed 8 shifts or 10 shifts a pay period, and they figured that help is needed elsewhere and we can't technically lay you off and tell you to go home, well then what we're going to do is have you work at another location, because that location might have a need for you. And if they call you before you clocked in at your home facility, then they will avoid paying you your mileage. So these are terrible suggestions and conditions that they are also basically proposing at the table with the RNPA board members. So it's not good, and that affects, again, the working conditions.
So here's a question, why are we proposing to not extend probation due to tardiness? We wouldn't want a permanent nurse who is late a lot, right? So all of the proposals are taken from actual either
Committees?
situations that happened or committees or members that either called in, wrote in, joined the committee, participated. So where this is coming from was there several incidents where managers to extend that 9-month probationary period used, we're looking for things, and someone maybe was 7 minutes late one day, that then pushed out their probation to the next pay period. And they were kind of using things to push that out. So 9 months is a very long time to be on probation. It's the managers or the hiring HR person's responsibility to do their due diligence when they hire somebody, and they put you through the tests. To then have another 9-month probationary period, that's a long time. And then to try to extend it for these little tiny situations, that was we had a couple incidents like that. So that's where that proposal came from.
Wow.
Most other places it's 6 months probationary period when you get hired. And I agree, we don't want nurses that are delayed a lot. I agree with you. We just, again, they're all coming from incidents that had reoccurrently been happening, so.
Does anybody have any questions that they would like to, unmute yourself and talk to us? Or would you like to continue on with this chat?
Real quick, I didn't add on the slides, but check your email. We have 2 organizers, Gerald and Lillian, and they've been coming up against a little pushback when they are approaching nurses, trying to get into clinics, because, they're not nurses, and maybe people don't recognize them. So we did send out an email with a little bio about them, a picture of them, and please welcome them. They're really trying hard to get communication out to everybody, put flyers up in break rooms, that kind of thing. So look for that email.
Will the strike school be recorded? No.
No.
It's not recorded. For ambulatory care, VSC, we are being told that the request for extra help and per diem, our extension is not approved, and only inpatient request will be approved. That's not what we heard. That's what we were told, that this is through Andrea Brolini, and I would like that member to contact us here in the office. What we were told was that if they are nearing their 1040 hours, that that individual there should be placed on a list, and if there's a need for it, then they need to put them on the list so they can go ahead and go before the board of supervisors. And then normally it is approved. They'll go ahead and ask RNPA, do they agree? And of course, the RNPA does support the per diem and extra help nurses. And we would like that versus having travelers, because travelers are not something that is even to be considered. It's not even in our contract. So this is something that is important to us. So please reach out and contact RNPA. Maybe we can help you with that. But we were told that that was still going to take place. It says, any dress code for strike school? I would say wear your blue. Wear blue. If not, we actually have t-shirts there that we can actually give you that night, tonight. So that way we all wear blue. Here's another question. It says, from one of my colleagues, is there any explanation about holiday pay coming out of our PTO bank? I know other hospitals pay holiday pay without touching PTO bank. So is there a way the enterprise can implement this?
So it took me 3 years to understand this, 3 years. So, but I made a flyer which I'm slowly having people that don't know the language to read it so that it makes sense, but I'm gonna put this out to everybody. It's just a draft. But we are front loaded somewhat for 17 holidays, 17. So I compared that with Good Sam, they get 8. Stanford gets 8. Kaiser 8. Who else? And El Camino, I think they get 8 also, but I'm gonna check, don't quote me, it's gonna be on the back of, I'm gonna have the explanation, then I'm gonna show it the other hospitals. So we have our PTO and how that's accrued, and then we have the holidays that we are prepaid, we are paid. The county has put those into one bank. So when you get paid from a holiday, it's pulled from that bank, but it's not your PTO that's accrued. That's hard to explain, hard to understand. So I have a flyer here, it's gonna go out. The more and more we looked at this and the benefit we have in this is that our PTO and how much PTO time we get is close to the other hospitals. Maybe we need a couple extra days to be aligned with the other facilities, 2 days. But the amount of holidays we get is almost triple of what they get. And how this benefits you is that if you don't work on a holiday that you're scheduled, or you don't work on a holiday, that money can sit in there and you can use it as PTO. If we were to separate these banks and you didn't use that holiday, you didn't work the holiday, then you would lose that money. So it's coming, the explanation is coming, but it's actually coming from an outside facility, one of the only things that I think is a benefit. Everything else, not so much. Everything else is a little low. But this is one thing that I don't think you wanna touch, but I'm gonna give it out to you guys and explain.
Right, it's very confusing at
It's very
first, when you
confusing.
first start and you're saying, why am I being charged and having it come out, I'm not on vacation.
No,
They're taking the PTO out, and it's because of the fact that we accrue this vacation, PTO is front loaded in your account. And so we are actually accruing on your very first, the very first year, you can have you have like 11 hours of PTO. Yeah, 11 days of PTO, there's 17 days of holiday. So your first year, 28 days that you can use that year. And you have a max bank of 81 days. That's the first year. So you accrue it at a faster rate. So when we were negotiating, we were saying, why aren't we like any other union? Why aren't we like SEIU? When they work, they have holiday pay. We get debited. And the response was, do you want to go ahead and accrue like them? It's a slower rate, and then we won't front load you. So of course not, we don't want to do that. But it's very confusing when you see it being debited. But you can also put it back in your comp time. But it's because you accrue that rate at a faster rate. So you can go ahead and constantly, depends on your code, on how fast you can accrue that rate.
And really who feels the most pain from this are the 40-hour-a-week nurses. Because like clinic nurses, because they're Monday through Friday, that holiday hits, their clinic is closed. They have to, that 8 hours comes out for that day, or it's usually 8 hours. And the reason why you want that is because then you're not, what are you gonna do for that day to make your code? If you don't have these preloaded holidays, you're gonna have to take PTO, leave without pay, your insurance is gonna be raised. Anyway, I have it all outlined in there. And it's gonna be one of those forms that you read it, you still don't understand it, and then you have to go back and read it again. But I think it works. Okay. Can you confirm there's been a hiring freeze for CN positions?
Okay, so can we confirm there's a hiring freeze? Okay, when we met with administration, I was talking to Andrea Berlini, and we were saying, hey, we noticed that the hiring freeze does not actually, it shows that they're only gonna hire certain individuals in the county. Park, recreation and park, librarians, people who work in the city, in the county. However, the RNs were not listed on there. So to me, that seems like a hiring freeze. So when we asked them, they said technically it's a soft freeze. And what does that mean? It means that if your unit, this is what we were told, if your unit is short-staffed and that it constantly shows that you need more staff there, that they are to, your manager is to send that up and propose that to administration and why you need more staff in your unit. Maybe you have transfers, maybe you have people retire, but why you need it. And then that proposal will go down to the Board of Supervisors so they can approve it. So that's the process that we were told, that technically no, they are still actually hiring people. And in fact, in our NeoGov, every 2 weeks, we're having more nurses come in. So I just want to let you know they are hiring. But, if you see in your department, then contact our office. So then we can actually put a pulse on it and then we can get back to you on that. But this is what we were told, that the managers are the ones that are supposed to go submit that.
And I know that we have, our economy is not the best, going to the grocery store is twice as expensive, but you've got to realize both RNPA and the SEMA union they're both negotiating at this time. And what I've heard is that this is a common strategic statement, is that all of a sudden now the budget, the moment we start negotiating, the budget's bad. Hiring freeze, is a big sob story. And anyway, I know that the economy isn't the best, but I think this is what they did 4 years ago. This is what I heard. They said the same thing, so.
So I know that when I was on the board, because I was on the union for like about 6 years or so, 7 years, we would listen to the financial reports and we would go down to the Board of Supervisors and they will talk about their financials, and every year they were pretty much in the red. And then they have money in the coffers because you'll be able to hear all the money they have. It's actually somewhere else, and then they'll go ahead and pay it, forgive it, and that's how they continued making this hospital float. And it's very important because we are the safety net of the community. But that's how it was in the past. Now we were told again that they are having budgetary constraints, and this is, they are having their own issues. And I believe they said that COVID, they're no longer receiving the money and other things. And of course, because the pandemic, even though you're still taking care of patients with COVID, they are not receiving that supplemental from the government and all of that. So they, I guess, were counting on that money as well. But it's always a bad time to ask for a raise. And from my understanding, they thought that the 10% that they just recently gave you was probably enough, because you guys can look at that and say you guys were already paid well. And so that's why they want to defer things and, they're being creative on how they're not going to pay you. But just make sure everybody stands together and be united. That's my advice. Does anybody else have any questions?
Just a comment. Can you guys still hear me? Sorry,
Yes.
running around, running errands. So yeah, I think that's where everything comes from. I think it's because I think that's where all of this goes. When inflation is going out of control, and somebody was mentioning there, yeah, I'm a PM shifter. I'm going to work. I wish I could be a Sanker right there supporting, but I won't be able to. If I can speak to people and let me know what happened. But yeah, for us, I'm able to.
I know
Because
that
usually
you're a big
those are the
supporter.
times. If it's in the morning, yeah, we can practice. So yeah, so it's kind of hard for us. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that you're a big supporter. We appreciate your feedback. We want you to continue contacting us, letting us know, and your staffing levels. Please send them in and include an acuity level on it, so then we can take a look at your matrix to see, did you actually need enhanced staffing and you were denied it? If you were, then we're going to go ahead and escalate it in here, which is on page 90, that it's going to be under a management audit team, and it's going to be presented to the Board of Supervisors because they are non-compliant and not following the ratio that was added for your acuity grid.
We
So
need those forms.
we really do need
They're
them,
hard to
please.
fill out because you don't have time, you're so busy. And nobody wants to get in trouble. They're not punitive in any way. It kind of feels like it because you're somewhat tattling on the situation, but that's all it is. You're tattling on the situation. And our goal is to, the more of those we get, the more that we can support everybody.
Absolutely, and they're not being compliant. That's the big thing.
They're
This-
manipulating the acuity. The acuity can only be done by the nurse assessing the patient. A manager in an office cannot assess acuity, period. So they want to because it will save them money. They can move staff around if they are able to do that, but we really want the nurse that takes care of the patient to give us that acuity score.
So please make sure that if you know that that's happening, have that person fill it out and send it to us. And what they can do is add the acuity. We were supposed to, based on our acuity for our floor, we have X amount of census. This is our acuity grid. We're supposed to have 12 nurses. They gave us 11. So please shed that light so that way we can say they are not honoring their own acuity grid system that was approved in 2018.
What is scary is the way they said that the nurses are falsifying records. You see the way they want to push that whatever the lady
They were very
said.
creative by saying that, trying to intimidate, bullying, intimidation, you're trying to say that your nurses, your RNPA nurses are falsifying documents. That's what you're telling me. So I said, nope, you didn't hear me. You didn't hear that it was management that is doing it. So now fast forward to yesterday. What is the difference? That they are still floating a nurse that actually qualified based on the acuity that was supposed to be in that unit. They had respiratory compromised patients in that unit, and they actually floated that nurse to another unit, replaced them with an HSA. HSAs work hard, but when you have a respiratory arrest and you need everybody on deck, they cannot help you. That does not replace the nurse. And that's also part of your law that it states AB 394 is your minimum ratio, which is 1 nurse to 5 patients, 1 nurse to 4 patients. That's the minimum ratio. And then on top of that, you might have septic patients. You have other types of patients there that actually have higher acuity. So that's the acuity based on, and it's supposed to give you more nurses for that type of patient that you're taking care of. I know that the med-surg floors are saying sometimes we're taking care of patients that belong in PCU, but PCU is pretty backed up. You're taking on the acuity, but every day you're seeing the same amount of nurses. So that's what we want to snapshot now, because that's going to strengthen our case now because they're non-compliant. So that's what we need to do because we never included it before. We need to include the acuity, please. And then let us know what you were supposed to receive and what you have. So please fill out that form.
There's a unit representative question. So VMC Pediatrics PICU, how do we get a unit representative?
Okay, we'll have our board member, the RNPA board member, Annie Ann, who is the area rep board chair. We'll have her reach out to PD or PICU because what they're going to do is they're going to ask somebody there, would they be interested in becoming a representative? If you know anybody that's in the pediatric PICU unit, please contact our office so that way we can go ahead and have them meet with you, and then you can go ahead and be our eyes and ears because you need that support too. And if you have patients that are not having their lines placed in a timely manner and sentinel events occur, or if you're not staffed properly, please let us know. We do not give patient information. We know that you guys don't transmit that to us, but what we do is advocate for you, and we always, we're going to keep it confidential. So we just want you guys to please make sure that you reach out to us.
And then how long is strike school meeting scheduled for tonight, night shifter?
Okay, so that's 2 hours. The strike school is for 2 hours, 5:30 to 7:30. If you need to leave at 7, that's fine. But it's nice for you to be there, support yourself with all the other nurses, because this is going to be a fight. I can detect it based on me seeing the board members when they come back, they look exhausted. And, they're trying hard. And of course, delivering bad news and letting you guys know this is what they're dealing with. They've been working tirelessly. And so please, when you see them tonight, thank them. And just know that all of you guys all work together to support a great contract. And this is why I'm here, because I care for all of you guys. And I want to make sure you guys have a good contract. Any more questions, concerns, comments? Going once, twice, 3 times? Call our office if you need to, 408-292-6061. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. See you tonight at Strike School.
Strike school.
Yay. Bye.